Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to unpack one of the most profound, captivating, and honestly just mysterious legends in all of spiritual history. We're exploring a story that bridges this massive gap between ancient mythological epics and modern-day devotion, and will map out every single fascinating twist and turn along the way. So get ready, because this is a story that's absolutely going to challenge everything you think you know about perfection.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Why does the Lord of the Universe have no hands or feet? It's this central enigma that has literally fascinated millions. Over in the great temple of Puri, where ocean waves have crashed toward the deity for thousands of years, sits Lord Jaganath. He's worshipped by countless people as the master of the entire universe, and yet his idol is startlingly incomplete. He has these massive, round, unblinking eyes, but his hands and feet? They're just mere stumps. To really grasp the profound secret hidden inside this incompleteness, we've got to trace a journey that spans across ages.
Section 1. The Unburnt Divine Heart, from the Ashes of Kurukshetra.
To unlock this mystery, we've got to flash back to a time of just unimaginable grief. We have to return to the bloody aftermath of the Great Mahabharata War. Let's walk through this timeline together. So, on the 18th day, the devastating Kurukshetra War finally comes to an end. But, the pain is really just beginning. A grieving mother, Gandhari, who has just lost all 100 of her sons, lashes out at Lord Krishna. She essentially asks him why, if he's all-powerful, he didn't just stop the bloodshed. And in her sheer agony, she curses him. Just as her lineage was destroyed, Krishna's own Yadava dynasty would destroy itself within 36 years, and his golden city of Dwarka would sink straight into the sea. Krishna just smiles, fully knowing this is all part of the divine plan. Fast forward to year 36, and, the curse manifests, the dynasty crumbles, Dwarka sinks into the ocean depths, and a completely exhausted Krishna rests under a tree in a forest. And then comes the final moment. A hunter named Jara spots Krishna's reddish foot from a distance, thinks it's the ear of a deer, and lets loose a fateful arrow. When he realizes his horrifying mistake, Jara just weeps, but Krishna actually comforts him. He explains that, hey, in a past life, Jara was the monkey king Vali, whom Krishna, when he was incarnated as Rama, had struck from hiding. So, this arrow, it was simply the balancing of ancient karma. And with that, Krishna's mortal time comes to an end.
Now, when Arjuna rushes in to perform Krishna's final rites, this absolutely miraculous event occurs. The fierce flames of the funeral pyre consume the mortal body entirely, just turning it to ash. But one element remains completely untouched: the divine heart. This heart, which is said to contain the love of the entire universe, literally refuses to burn. It just glows, radiating this eternal life, right there amidst the ashes.
Guided by a divine voice, Arjuna takes this unburnt, glowing heart, places it onto a wooden log, and casts it out into the sea. I mean, just imagine the sensory details here. A radiant, pulsing light drifting on the dark, vast ocean currents for ages. Eventually, this sacred log washes up on the distant shores of the Mahanadi River over in Odisha. There, it's discovered by Vishwavasu, the chief of a local Sabar tribe. Feeling its intense divinity, the chief actually hides it in a secret cave and starts worshipping it with pure, simple devotion under the name Nila Madhava. No complex rituals, right? Just a direct, loving connection between a devotee and the divine.
Section 2. The Secret Mustard Seed Path, a King's Desperate Search.
So word of this secret, miraculous deity starts to whisper across the lands, and it eventually reaches King Indradumna of Avanti. Now the king is a fierce devotee of Vishnu, and he becomes utterly obsessed with finding Nilamalava. To track the deity down, he sends his brilliant spy, Vijayapati. Now what's really interesting here is how Vijayapati executes this cunning, three-step espionage plan. Step 1. He spends time with the tribe and eventually marries the chief's daughter, Lalita. Step 2. Through his new wife, he begs the chief for just one single glimpse of the deity. The chief reluctantly agrees, but with a strict condition. Vijayapati has to be blindfolded for the entire trek into the forest. But of course, Vijayapati is ready for step 3. He hides a handful of mustard seeds in his clothes. As he's being blindly led through the winding forest, he secretly drops the seeds one by one onto the forest floor, literally laying down a hidden map.
Months pass. The monsoon rains come and go. And when King Indradumna finally arrives with his entire army, Vijayapati shows him the brilliant result of his trickery. The dropped seeds have sprouted. A vivid trail of bright yellow mustard flowers now cuts right through the dense forest, pointing exactly to the secret location.
The king eagerly follows this yellow path, his heart just pounding. But when he finally breaches the cave, it's completely empty. Nila Madhava has vanished. The king is absolutely heartbroken, just crushed by his failure. But get this, that very night Lord Vishnu appears to the weeping king in a dream. He tells the king not to despair and promises that he's going to return, not as Nila Madhava, but as a massive floating log that will arrive on the shores of Puri.
Section 3. Arrival of Daru Brahma, the immovable divine wood. And just as the dream foretold, this massive, completely unmovable divine log eventually washes ashore. It's so heavy it can't be budged, finally yielding only to the touch of the original tribal devotee. Section 4. The carpenter's strict condition. The countdown begins. When they realize no earthly tools can even make a dent in this divine wood, a mysterious old carpenter arrives on the scene with one absolute, non-negotiable condition.
21. That is the number you need to remember here. The mysterious carpenter, who is actually the divine architect Vishwakarma, demands to be locked inside a chamber with the wood for exactly 21 days. And during this time, under no circumstances can anyone open the door or disturb him. So, the ticking clock begins. The heavy doors are bolted shut, and for days this rhythmic sound of hammering and chiseling just echoes throughout the palace.
Day 1, Day 5, Day 10 pass by. But then, on the 15th day, the hammering suddenly stops. A terrifying, dead silence falls over the chamber. Queen Gundicha begins to panic. She cries out, "He has had no food or water for 15 days. We must open the door." She's entirely convinced this frail old man has collapsed or died inside. She pleads and cries, slowly chipping away at the king's patience and his faith.
Section 5. Mystery of the Incompleteness, the Broken Promise. Let's move along and see how this builds up to our central mystery.
The tension is just unbearable, right? Finally, on the 16th day, the king's resolve completely breaks. He orders his guards to push open the heavy wooden doors of the chamber, effectively breaking his sacred promise to the divine architect. When they force those doors open, what they find leaves the king utterly devastated. The old carpenter? He has vanished completely, into thin air. And sitting right in the center of the room are three massive wooden idols, Lord Jaganath, his brother Balabhadra, and his sister Subhadra. But they're unfinished. They have no carved hands, no carved feet. They're just smooth stumps. And their faces feature these enormous, strange, unblinking circular eyes. The king falls to his knees, weeping, convinced he has ruined the divine manifestation through his own impatience.
But then, a booming divine voice echoes through the empty chamber. The voice comforts the weeping king, revealing this incredibly profound philosophical truth. My hands and feet are incomplete because I need no means to help my devotees. The voice explains that actually, this incompleteness is absolute perfection. God doesn't need literal, physical hands to reach out and embrace the world. And furthermore, those enormous, unblinking eyes, they are designed exactly that way, so the Lord can watch over his devotees every single second, without ever needing to blink or rest. This wasn't a mistake at all. This was exactly the form the divine intended to take.
So, the crucial point is how this ancient past directly connects to these newly carved idols. Remember the unburnt heart of Krishna from the very beginning of our story? That glowing heart is the Brahma Padartha. This eternal, divine essence was secretly placed deep inside the hollow chest of the wooden Jaganath idol. And honestly, the most mind-blowing part about all this, it isn't just an ancient myth. Even today, every 12 to 19 years during a massive ritual called Navakalivara, the wooden idols are replaced. During this ceremony, in the dead of night, specially chosen priests are blindfolded, their hands are wrapped tightly in thick cloth, and they physically transfer this mysterious pulsing Brahma Padartha from the old idol into the new one. No one has ever seen it with their bare eyes.
Section 6. The Eternal Chariot Journey. Reaching the World. Now, as you'll see, this incredible legend doesn't just live behind closed temple doors. It bursts right out into the streets.
Once a year, the great Rath Yatra takes place. Millions of people gather in Puri. 3 giant, towering chariots are pulled through the streets. Because the Lord's giant, unblinking eyes are meant to watch over absolutely everyone, he refuses to stay locked away. He actually leaves the boundaries of his temple, and this is deeply, deeply significant. For those who traditionally cannot enter the temple, regardless of caste, creed, or social status, the Lord comes out to the streets to be totally accessible to them. Rich and poor alike stand shoulder to shoulder, pulling the exact same ropes.
Which brings us to a final thought for our explainer today. If God steps out of the temple to meet us on the streets, are there truly any boundaries left between us? The legend of Lord Jaganath, an incomplete deity with a heart that transcends time itself, reminds us that divinity isn't about physical perfection or strict, rigid rules. It's about boundless accessibility and a gaze that literally never looks away from anyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. I hope this deep dive has left you with plenty to ponder. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.